Hi everyone, in this video you're going to learn how to identify premises and conclusion in a given argument. And in the second half of this video, we are to look at how to determine whether a given argument is a valid argument or not using Euler diagram. So let's get started. First, an argument consists of two parts. One is conclusion, the other part is premise. In the argument, you can only have one conclusion, but you could have more than one premise. So premise basically are statements that provide the evidence or the reasoning to support the conclusion. So it's like condition, it's like assumption, evidence, that's your premise. And conclusion in the argument is something that the arguer is trying to prove to its audience, basically. So relatively speaking, conclusion is easier to identify. But let's do that through these examples. So how to identify premise or premises and conclusion in an argument. So let's look at our first example. Since small fish is rich in calcium, it follows that your body will benefit if you eat them. That means if you eat those small fish. Now let's see what is the premise, what is conclusion. Premise usually is the evidence or is the reason for you to draw the conclusion. Say, look at this word here, since. So that's the reason, since, like because. So this is the reason, and this you try to convince your audience to agree with you. So that's the conclusion. So premise is in this case, small fish is rich in calcium. Conclusion is that your body will benefit if you eat them. Yeah, this is the reason, this is the consequence, basically. The reason, the evidence is the premise. Now, actually, notice that you can state this same thing in a different order, such as in this order. Your body will benefit from eating small fish because it is a rich source of calcium. In other words, in argument, the order of reasoning and conclusion can be switched. There's no certain order for you to follow. Either way is okay. Okay. Second one, we have another one here. We have a couple of this. Yeah, we have several of this. Number two, I have heard that cats with long hair have lots of fleas. They also shed all over the house. So you should not get a long-haired cat. This one is the conclusion part of this one is very easy to identify. This is so. So this conclusion. So what are the premises? Premise, don't forget, premise support is something that supports your conclusion. What supports that you should not have the long-haired cat? There's two reasons. One, they have a lot of fleas. Secondly, they also shed all over the house. That's the reason you want to avoid having this long-haired cat, right? So two reasons, that's your two premises. And let's write them on this paper. Cats with long hair have lots of fleas. That's one reason. And the second one, premise number one, premise number two. And also those those cats, that means cats with long hair, shed all over the house. So for these two reasons, you draw the conclusion you should not get a long-haired cat. Yeah, it's very clear, the reason and the conclusion. Premise is just a supporting evidence or reasons. Now another one, I hope after several examples, it's easier for you to answer the homework questions. And number 3, he's not good at his work, so he doesn't deserve a raise. So that means this is a conclusion, and this is reason. So let's just write it out. He is not good at his work. Conclusion is that he, capital last, he does not deserve a raise. Yeah, reason and conclusion. So this is very clear actually. Now let's look at our number 4 example. No one under 18 years old can vote. It's like a condition. Premise is like Jim cannot vote because he's not yet 18. So let's look at that. This is like a condition. No one under 18 years old can vote. And now because it's part of reason, premise or reasons, because Jim is not 18 years old yet. That means he's still under 18 years old. The conclusion is that Jim cannot vote. So we have 2 premises. This is general condition. No one under, this is like a rule. No one under 18 can vote. Now this is specifically the evidence for Jim. He's under 18 years old. The conclusion, he cannot vote. So 2 premises. No one under 18, let's just write this to make it a little bit shorter, can vote. Premise number 2, Jim, you can just copy this part. Jim is not yet 18, or you can say Jim is under 18 years old. So as long as you something that's really, really close to the original one. If you're not sure, just copy the original one. Now conclusion is that Jim cannot vote. Next page, we get a conclusion. Jim cannot vote. Yeah, that's it. Now we have 4 examples. Let's summarize this whole thing to see if we can make it easier for you to tell the difference between premises and conclusion in a given argument. Actually, I don't know if you noticed that or not through this example. Actually, the easiest way to do that is looking for indicator words. There's some keywords for you to look for. Remember, premise is about condition, reasoning, evidence. Conclusion is like consequence. That's what the author, not author of the argument, keyword, try to convince you. Some of those indicator words that you can find to be associated with the premises include this, because, since, given that, this is either condition about a condition or reasoning, right? Consider that this is like a condition, but, and, or, this. Excuse me. This kind of things usually preceding the premises or connect premises. Now, some other keywords that connect with conclusion. such as therefore, thus, which follows that, consequently, so, hence, etc. So it's very easy to identify if you're looking for these keywords. Okay, that's the first half of this video. Now we are going to use an Euler diagram and to determine the validity of an argument. Now this is a general process. Don't worry about this too much because I'm going to illustrate this process using examples. But generally speaking, this is how you use Euler diagram to determine if a given argument is a valid one or not. First, you have to draw the Euler diagram, right? So you draw each premises using circles because two circles represent the relation between two sides. You draw the first premise if you have two. Usually you have two premises, sometimes more, but usually you have two. You draw the first one using one of those four models, like A, all A are B, some A are B, some A are not B, no A are B, one of those four. Then you draw the second premise. You draw it in a way to see if you can draw it to result in a different conclusion than the original one. If that happens, that means original argument is invalid because you can draw different conclusions using the same premises. But when you draw the second premise, you also draw the same conclusion as the original one. That means there's only one possible conclusion. That means original conclusion is a valid one. But the key is how you draw the second premise. So now let's look at this whole process. And this is a quick review of Euler diagram. So I already mentioned that. Basically, you just have a rectangle. Usually they don't show you on the homework because this is always there rectangle with two sides in it. Since it is always there, sometimes people don't draw it. So with the circles inside, and this circle inside could be like this, no A or B, one of those four. Okay, so basically Euler diagram has a structure that you have a rectangle with two circles in it. Now let's look at the relations between sides. That means how you draw these two sides within this rectangle. We already mentioned that. I'm going to do it again because this part is super important. The first one is O, A, or B. Let's do the a little bit quicker because we already did this before. So this is the B, and this is the A. O, A, or B. Now second one is number one. Number two, some A or B. Some A or B. That means this is the B, this is A. They are talking about this part of A. Some A inside B, some A or B. Number three, some A are not B. Again, whenever they mention some, it means these two are going to overlap partially. Now this is still A, this is still B. They're talking about this part of A. Because this part of A are not part of B, are not in B. Some A are not B. Instead of this part, they emphasize this part of A. Now the last one, number four, no A or B, right? So apparently that's this scenario. This is A, this is B. They're totally separated, no A or B. So that's a full model. That's all you need to draw Euler diagram to determine whether a given argument is valid or not. Now the rest of this video, we're going to look at some examples, just say how to determine if a given argument is valid or not. First of all of arguments are presented in this kind of format. You have premise, then you have line to separate between premise and conclusion. So this last line is conclusion. So that when we draw Euler diagram, we know when you draw this as a premise, we draw this as a premise, and this is conclusion. We on premise to see according to our Euler diagram to see if we can draw the same conclusion or not. If we draw the same conclusion, it is valid argument, the original one. If we draw different conclusion, if we could draw different conclusion, that means this original argument is invalid one. Because valid argument can only have one conclusion. If you can get second different conclusion by using the same premises, that means original one is not valid one. So let's do this one. All people who arrive late cannot perform. So all A are B. So I use A to represent all people who arrive late, and people who arrive late. And second circle B represent people who cannot perform. So it goes like this. Let's say if I draw this, let's just draw a circle. O, A, or B. These are people who arrive late. So I don't have enough room to write those words. So as long as you understand it, that's good enough. People who arrive late. And this B, this circle represent people who cannot perform. See how I draw that? I draw this circle entirely inside this cannot perform. That means if you're late, you belong to this circle. Then you also belong to this bigger circle for people who cannot perform. That means if you're late, you cannot perform. I just represent this premise. You have to represent original premise correctly. Now, second premise is that all people who cannot perform, that means this is bigger circle, right? Bigger circle. All people, as long as inside the bigger circle, are ineligible for scholarship. That means we have another circle now. Each premise represents two circles. The first one in this second premise is people who cannot perform. Now, second circle is that people who are ineligible for scholarship. All A are B, because all of these are ineligible. So that means this circle that represents people who cannot perform is entirely inside the circle for those who are ineligible for scholarship. So this is the bigger circle. This is the people who are ineligible for scholarship. Basically, this is the only way to draw this. So people who cannot perform are invalid for scholarship entirely inside this bigger circle. Now, after we draw these two premises, we look at their conclusion. Their conclusion is all people who arrive late, they're talking about smallest circle, are ineligible for scholarship. Now, we look at that compared to our drawing to see if it is consistent with our drawing. According to our drawing, this Euler diagram, this smallest circle is entirely inside this ineligible circle. That means all people who arrive late are ineligible for scholarship. This is exactly the same conclusion. That means what? That means this original one is a valid one. This is a valid argument. There's no other possible conclusion based on the same two premises. When we have premises, we assume they are true. Okay, based on these premises, we draw the same conclusion. That means it is valid conclusion. Valid doesn't mean correct. Okay, valid just means logically we can draw this conclusion. It doesn't mean it's the right conclusion because we assume these premises are correct. In real life, this premise could be wrong. That's why we have all of those attorneys fight in the court. Okay, now second example, same parameter using Euler diagram to determine if this argument is a valid one or not. So let's draw our first premise. All poets appreciate language. Remember, you draw each premise using two circles. So one circle contains poets, all of those. Second one contains those people, represent those people who appreciate language. Many other people appreciate language too, like me. I'm a math person, right? Let's just say all points appreciate language. So apparently this circle that represents points must be entirely inside the circle that represent people who appreciate language. So I'm going to draw the first premise. So this points. This represent people who appreciate language. Yeah, all points appreciate language. So I just represent that. Now I'm going to represent the second premise. All writers appreciate language. Now be careful. So since all writers, that's another circle, also appreciate language, that means the circle that represents writers is also entirely inside the bigger circle, appreciate language. But where do I draw that? So now I'm going to draw it in two different ways. And let's see what happens. I can draw the second one this way. Let me use a different color. I can draw this second premise. As long as I draw this writer circle inside this appreciate language circle, I'm going to be fine with the second premise, right? I'm going to draw it this way. That's one way to draw that. This represent a writer circle. Just use W to represent that. Now I'm going to use a different color so that you can differentiate that. I'm going to use a different color to draw. Second way to draw it. So this green circle is still inside the appreciate circle, right? Appreciate language circle. So that means I still draw this second premise correctly. So this is also writer. It's not two circles. This is two different ways to draw it. So if you look at the green circle, all of points, this circle are inside green circle, right? That means all points are writers. In this case, it is correct. All points are writers according to these two premises. So this is correct conclusion. But if I draw this writer circle this way, which is still inside the appreciate language circle, that means I didn't draw it wrong. I still very consistent with the second premise. But in the relation between points and writer circle, there's a problem. In this case, it's not this point circle entirely inside the writer circle, so that you cannot claim all of the points are writers. That's not a conclusion according to this drawing. So that means this one is invalid one, because according to a different way to draw this writer circle, different way to draw the second premise, we cannot draw the same conclusion. That means this one is invalid. So the invalid argument. You have two different ways. You can draw two different conclusions based on how you draw the second premise. Now let's look at the third one. All freshmen live on campus. Two circles, all A are B. That's basic model. This represents freshmen. Live on campus is not a circle. So this live on campus. All of the people live on campus. So all A are B. Second one, no people who live on campus can own car. So another circle represents people who own car, but it says no A or B. What is A? People who live on campus. This one. This represents all of the people who live on campus, but none of these people can own a car. That means this circle cannot overlap with circle that represent people can own a car. So this is people who can own a car. Okay, no people live on campus can own a car. These two are not connecting, are not overlapping. This is the only way to draw that. Now let's look at the conclusion. Conclusion is that no freshman can car. Freshman is in here. The circle that represents people who can own car is here. This circle and this circle not overlapping. That means no freshman can have a car. This is correct. We draw same conclusion. So this is valid. We draw same conclusion. There's no other conclusion possible. because there's no other way to draw these 3 circles. That's the only way to draw these 3 circles. So another one, we have 2 more probably. All people are mortal. So all A are B. You're getting familiar, right? A, this is people. This another one represents mortal, including animals, maybe something else, not just only people. This is about anything that is mortal. This is only about people. So all people are mortal. All people are inside the mortal circle. And some mortals are students. That means some A are B, right? They overlap. So some mortals, that means this bigger circle is going to be partially overlapped with student circle. Now let's say there are different ways to draw that. As long as this mortal circle overlaps with student circle, then I'm good in terms of drawing the second premise, right? I'm going to draw it in different way. I can use a different color to see if we can get same conclusion. This conclusion is about people and students, Now I can draw it this way. If I draw it this way, this is consistent with the second one, right? Some mortals, this mortal circle, some mortals are students. This is student circle, the yellow one. Some mortals are students. So it's good, which is the right way to draw this second premise. Based on this drawing, what conclusion we can get in terms of people and students? In this case, people circle and student circle are totally separated, right? That means no people, that's our conclusion. No people are students. That's our conclusion. No people are students. If I draw this student circle this way, but I can draw this student circle in a different way. Where's my marker? Now let's say I can draw my student circle this way. This way is just different way to draw it. Still, this mortal circle overlap with student circle, right? I still fulfill the requirement of this second premise. But from this drawing, this way, now ignore this yellow one. From this way, we do have some overlap between people and the student, right? And the student circle. That means some people that's here are students. That's their conclusion. That's the original conclusion. In other words, depending on how we draw the second premise, we can draw different conclusions. Just because we can have alternative conclusion that will make this original one invalid. Because valid one, there's only one conclusion. No matter how you draw this promises, it's only one conclusion. That means it's valid one. Okay, this is the last one. All children love to swim. You see, very much the same structure. All A or B. Children circle will be inside a bigger circle to represent people who love to swim. This is the love to swim circle. We finish the first premise. Now second one, Michael Phelps. And people who are not too young will know this person for sure. He won a lot of golden medals from Olympics. So a swimmer, Michael Phelps, loves to swim. This is a single person is not a set. One single person. When we draw in Euler diagram, we just use a single dot to represent that instead of a circle. Okay. Now let's say where to put Michael Phelps. Love to swim. That means as long as I put this dot inside the love to swim circle, I'm okay. I'm fine to be consistent with the second one, right? But depend on where you put the dot, because there's a lot of different places to place this Michael Phelps, right? Now let's say if we can draw the same conclusion. First, if put it in here, this is Michael Phelps, okay, this yellow one. According to the way I draw it, now the conclusion is about Michael Phelps and the child. It's about this dot and child. In this case, this dot is outside child circle, right? The conclusion from here is that Michael Phelps is not a child because it's not in the child circle. That's one way to draw that. But we could also put this dot in here because as long as we put it inside the love to swim circle, it will fulfill the requirement of second premise, right? So if I put it here, what is the conclusion then? It's inside children's circle. And here, the conclusion is that Michael Phelps is a child. So they said it's a child. They drew a conclusion based on this, but we could draw a different conclusion based on this way of drawing the second premise. Since we could have different conclusions by using same premises, that means this original one is not a valid one because valid one can only draw one conclusion, cannot have two different or more conclusions based on the same premise. So invalid. So I hope through these examples and explanations, have better understanding about how to use a Euler diagram to determine the validity of an argument. See you in the next video.